Okay, now next topic is TDS, tax deduction at source. Now see, as usual in every chapter, first I give you the outline of the topic and then we will go inside that. So see, the outline of the chapter is, this chapter is divided into three parts. Part 1, there is one keyword with which most of the provisions of TDS will be covered. There is one keyword. How to pronounce the keyword I will tell you, but this code word I have created to remember certain things. Okay. So one keyword, payer, receiver. This is part 1. What is payer, what is receiver? I will talk on that. Right now we don't apply your brain, just understand. There is one keyword with which I have to explain something, and then payer and receiver. Thereafter we can say part 1 is over. Then section wise notes and then general notes. This way I have divided a chapter into three parts. And you know, the way I have divided a topic, that is the reason you will find the topic is simple and manageable. Otherwise, I know with my experience, if this chapter, if I don't teach in this style, if I try to teach in some other pattern, as may be given in the study material or whatever, it will become a total mess. So in short, respect this format. Part 1, part 2, part 3. This way if we go, the topic will go very smoothly. Okay. Now see, before I start the topic, in this chapter you have to think from payer's angle. You know, in every transaction there are two parties, payer and the receiver. Like see, for example, this classroom I have taken on rent. So I have to pay the rent. So I am the payer. And the one who gets the rent from me, he is the receiver. So in that sense, I am saying payer receiver. And in this chapter, your focus should be on payer. Because see, generally in income tax, we have the mentality of thinking from a receiver's angle. Because income is of the receiver. And since we are studying income tax, so naturally we start thinking from a receiver's angle. But please, in this chapter, don't think from receiver's angle. It will become a mess. This whole chapter is to be taught from payer's angle. Because who has to deduct TDS? The one who makes the payment. Like for example, these classes I have taken on rent, when I make the rent payment, I have to deduct the TDS. So it is the payer's responsibility. So that's why every provision you have to think from payer's point of view. See, I have drawn one thing here. Look, there are two parties, payer and receiver. Payer will hand over the income to the receiver, but he will hand over the full income or net amount. Net amount. TDS will be deducted and paid to the government, and net amount payer will hand over to the receiver. Okay, and think from payer's point of view. You know why I make this first only clear? Because see, I have noticed in my past teaching, sometimes students' confusion arises. Why? You know, because he is thinking from receiver's angle. That's why confusion arises. So all this I have learned in my past teaching. So that's why at the beginning only I make it clear that this chapter is a headache for payer. Okay, one more thing. I will tell you many times that this chapter is a headache for payer, headache for payer, headache. You know why it is a headache? There are a lot of compliance burdens. I'll tell you what. Let me explain in short. After you deduct the TDS, your next job is deposit the TDS. In case you don't deposit the TDS, you have to pay interest, you have to pay penalty, extreme cases you have to go to jail. And if you deduct TDS, you have to take PAN number of the other party. Every year you have to file 4 returns of TDS. All this I will explain in detail later. Right now I just want you to feel there is lot of headache for the payer. See, if the payer is simply supposed to give 90 out of 100, that is not a tension. Like if my party was supposed to be given 100, from that if I cut 10, if I have to give 90, that is normal. But after cutting the TDS, the tension starts that I have to deposit by 7th of next month. Why 7th of next month? I will explain all this in detail. But right now focus on the headache. First headache is deduct the deposit TDS by 7th of next month, and there if you delay you have to pay interest, and if you sometimes you have to pay penalty. Extreme cases you might have to go to jail also. And the parties whose TDS you have deducted, you have to take his PAN number, you have to issue TDS certificate, and you have to file 4 returns in a year, quarterly returns. See how all this happens. I am not explaining now, I will explain later. Right now just feel so much of headache payer has got. That's why deducting TDS is a headache for the payer. For receiver, there is no problem. Receiver, if I cut 10 rupees TDS, he will get 90. And if I don't deduct TDS, he'll get full 100. So this chapter is not a headache for the receiver. It is headache for the payer. In short, think from payer's angle. Now, what is part 1? This keyword payer and the receiver. See, I have written here. Part 1. In this keyword, what I will explain? Threshold limits and the percentage of TDS. As you know, that for every TDS transaction, there are some limits. That up to some limit, no TDS. And if the amount crosses the limit, then only there is TDS. So that is called threshold limit. So in this keyword, my objective is to explain various threshold limits and the percentage of TDS. And you know how to read this keyword? This is like a song. I have made a song out of this. This song will sound funny, but trust me, this will become memorable throughout your life. Even students who are 10 years old, they still tell me, sir, we remember the TDS song. It is not a great song, but it will definitely become memorable. See, how is this song? CD Vakraf CP. CD Vakraf CP. CD Vakraf CP. CD Vakraf CP. Means you have to say 4 times, but 3 times in a monotonous tune, and then 4th time your tune will change. Please keep it the same. So see, CD Vakraf CP. See how I am pronouncing CD Vakraf CP. Okay, so how it goes? CD Vakraf CP. CD Vakraf CP. CD Vakraf CP. CD Vakraf CP. Okay. When this becomes a 10 years old theory, that time also if you are able to remember, then you will appreciate this keyword. Right now, it might sound funny also. What is this CD Vakraf CP? Trust me, it is worth. Why I have kept this unique word, if I would have jumbled the alphabet, I could have created one good word, but then section would have become mess. I cannot play with the sections. If you see, sections are coming in straight line. 192, 193, 194. After that, all are 194, but with ABCD. And I don't want to disturb the flow of the section. Because see, if I would jumble the alphabet, it can become a very good word. Nowadays, you give it to ChatGPT. It will jumble the words and create good, attractive words. But then, that will mess up the section. That's why I kept the alphabet in the same order, so that sections are not disturbed. See, sections are so nice. 192, 193, 194, 194A. After that, ABCD will start. All are 194. B, C, D, E is missing. Because 194E will come in a separate topic. NR taxation. Which topic? NR taxation. It will come. But alphabetically, it has its existence. So feel A, B, C, D, E will come later. F is faltu. In Hindi, F is faltu. Faltu means it is useless section. It is there in the act, but at present it has got no relevance. So if you skip F, then what is next? D, E will come later. F, skip G, H. Feel the sequence. H, I, J. After J, next comes J, K. K will come later, but I have not kept here. Why it is taken later, you will understand soon. J, K is not there. J, K, L. L is also there. I is the extended family of single I. Can you see 190 for I? After that, back to back, there is 190 for IA. I have purposely written behind. There is some reason, you will soon understand. But till here, you will feel A to L continuously. After L, continue the ABCD. L, M, N, O, P, Q, R, S, T. These sections are also there, but I have not covered in my keyword. Why not covered? You will understand. And you might wonder right now, so many sections are missing in the keyword. So how this keyword will simplify? Trust me, all the major tension oriented section are covered in the keyword. Later on, once with the keyword, substantial TDS is in your hands. Once the substantial topic comes in your hand, these other sections are manageable. But let me tell you now only, there are more sections after the alphabet L. And how it goes? M, N, O, P, Q, R, S, T. It is still T. Means government is going to explore full A to Z. It has not reached till Z up till now. Right now it has reached till T. Okay. But anyways, in my keyword, I will take till L only. Okay. Now, can you guess the alphabets? S, TDS on salary. I for interest on securities. D for dividend. See, the keyword is such, you can automatically guess that it is TDS for which item. Salary, interest on securities, dividend, interest other than interest on securities. See, this is interest on securities and this is other than securities. Securities can be debenture, bond, but this is other than security like bank account, loans, interest, other than security. Then guess winnings, payment to contractors, commission, rent, fees for professional services, compulsory acquisition of immovable property, purchase of immovable property. So in one go only you can remember the full form of CD Vakraf CP. Okay. Now you know in this keyword what I have to explain? Threshold, limit and percentage. So see, in salary the threshold is what you know, only if the employee's salary is greater than basic exemption, TDS will be applicable. So what is the threshold? Employee's salary should be greater than basic exemption. You know the basic exemption under slab rates, first slab is up to 2,50,000, that is basic exemption. And under new regime, you forgot the slab rates on new regime, 4 lakhs, 0 to 4, 4 to 8, 8 to 12, 8, 12 to 16, 16 to 20, 20 to 24, about 24. So under new regime it is 4 lakhs, under old regime it is 2,50,000. So for example, if my employee says, sir, we want to follow new regime, then I will check 4 lakhs. And if my employees say, we want to follow old regime, then 2,50,000. So depending upon what employees follow, which employees will generally communicate to the boss, he will decide whether TDS will be applicable or not. Law says if the salary exceeds the basic exemption limit, whether it is 2,50,000 of old regime or 4 lakhs of new regime, TDS will be applicable. So what is the threshold limit? Taxable income from salary should be greater than basic exemption. And what is the percentage of TDS? Slab rates. Means your boss will deduct TDS as per slab rates. Okay. See, while I am communicating, I am thinking from boss's point of view. Because in this chapter, you have to think from payer's angle. So in salary, who is the payer? Boss. Your boss is the payer. So if I am boss, if I am giving you salary more than basic exemption, I will cut TDS as per slab rates. That's it. 192 is over. Now you will wonder, sir, only 192, this much only we have to study. No, there are extra points. Extra points I will take it in section wise notes. See, section wise, na? Right now also I am going section wise. But right now my focus is on threshold and the percentage. See, there is a style of teaching. If I try to show off my knowledge, everything about 192, this way for each section, everything I keep explaining, it will become a total mess. That's why people find TDS horrible. So you know what style I have adopted? I thought initially when I touch the section, I will not complicate. First I will explain my students what? Threshold and the percentage. And once that is thorough, all extra points, I will take it in section wise notes. And you know in general notes what I will do? All the points which are common in all sections. Then, so as of now 192 is over. What is 193? Interest on securities like debentures, bonds, etc. So if you are having security, if you are earning interest about 10,000, then TDS will apply. The other threshold is 10,000. Percentage is 10%. Because if it is below 10,000, hardly you are getting some income. In that unnecessarily, why to deduct TDS? But if you are having debenture interest, interest from bonds, etc. exceeding 10,000, company will deduct TDS. See, here my thinking should be, I am a company, you are debenture holder, bond holder, I pay you interest. See my language, pay. in this chapter your tone should be of pay. So if I pay interest to the debenture holder, bond holder, I will deduct TDS of 10% provided interest exceeds 10,000. Tell me, if the interest paid to the debenture holder, bond holder is 12,000, then on entire 12,000 TDS will come. Because some students have got wrong impression that subtract 10 only on balance. No, once you cross the limit, TDS will apply on the whole amount. Okay. Then D stands for dividend. Dividend also same threshold. 10,000, 10%. Only thing is interest you get from debentures and bonds. Dividend you get from shares. Because shares are different item, it will fetch you a different kind of income. That's why the section is different. Otherwise the provisions are ditto, same. Okay. Then 190. See, don't think that in 193, 194, this is only what we have to remember. I told you, no, there are extra points, but extra points will come when? In section wise notes. Okay. Then what is 194A? Interest other than interest on securities. What do you mean by interest other than interest on securities? The securities means something which is sellable. Debentures, bond, which you can sell. But sometimes, you hold something which is not sellable. Like bank account. Can you sell bank account? No. So items which are not sellable, that will fetch second interest, 194A. So this is my trick to remember. Whenever I notice something which is sellable, debentures, bonds, securities, then TDS comes under 193. But if I come across something like loan, bank account in a post office, so tell me, can you sell loan, bank account, post office? These are not sellable items. So for non-sellable item, TDS comes under 194A. And here, what is the rule? Look here. If I am bank and you are my customers, and if I pay you interest above 50,000, then only I will deduct TDS. See my way of explaining, I am making myself as a bank, because in this chapter I want to communicate from payer's angle. And as you know, generally bank gives interest to the customer, to the account holders. Like you people have got fixed deposit account in the bank. So on FD, when you get interest, I will deduct TDS, but only if the interest exceeds 50,000. 50,000 you have to by heart. But 50,000 threshold is applicable when? Either when bank or post office pays interest to the account holder. But in all the other cases, it is 10,000. 10,000 is the usual amount. So even in this 194A, 10,000 is applicable. But there is a separate threshold if bank or post office pays interest to their account holder. See, I have written here. Notice my tone. In my tone, I am using the word pay, because in this chapter I have to think from payer's point of view. My communication will be from payer's point of view. So what did I say? If bank or post office pay to their account holder, then the limit is 50,000. Tell me then what will come in others? Like in Reliance, you have made a fixed deposit. There are public deposits in companies. Reliance, Infosys, L&T, there you have made public deposits. So public deposits are also not sellable. See why I am taking example of public deposit, because it cannot be sold. And something which cannot be sold is covered in 194A. So tell me, in case you have made public deposit with Reliance, L&T, Infosys, so when they pay interest, what is the rule? 10,000. Why? Separate threshold for banks. Wait, let me reveal the percentage also, 10%. Why a bigger threshold for banks? See, up till now 10,000, 10,000, 10,000 was there. But for banks, there is a bigger threshold. See, by keeping a bigger threshold, government is trying to benefit the bank. You know why it is for the benefit of bank? See, imagine, if I am bank, don't you think I might be having lakhs of customer? Or bank has only 5-6 customers. See, if bank would have had only 5-6 customer, then government would have insisted deduct TDS on every transaction. Don't leave everyone. Don't leave anyone. But since banks have got lakhs of customer, just imagine if bank has to deduct TDS on each and every customer, TDS on each and every, it will increase the compliance burden. You know what is the burden in TDS? Look, cutting the TDS is not a problem. After cutting, deposit by 7th of next month. And imagine if so many customer, so many cutting, so many depositing, so much of work increasing. And in case you forget to deposit by 7th of next month, you will be paying interest, sometimes penalty, extreme case jail. And account holder whose TDS you deduct, you have to take PAN number. And if so many account holders, so many PAN numbers to be taken, TDS certificate to be given. See, all these points which I am saying in casual, I will explain formally in general notes what are the compliance burden of a tax deductor. But right now you just feel casually, if a bank has to cut the TDS on each and every customer's account, they will go mad. That's why you know what government says, okay, do one thing, ignore the customers earning interest up to 50,000. Such a great relief I will get. So see, if I am bank, I might be having so many customers who are getting interest not more than 50, and I have to ignore them. And to ignore them means my TDS compliance will be relieved. Now as a bank, I have to focus on which customers? Only those earning interest above 50,000, and these will be less in number. If there are less customers on which I have to deduct TDS, my burden will be relieved. See, in this chapter, make a thumb rule. Whenever government is giving a greater threshold, it is not for the person who is earning the income. See, person who is earning the income, government is not bothered about him in this chapter. Government is worried about the compliance burden of the payer. See, receiver, whether he gets net of TDS or whether he gets full amount, it doesn't make any difference to him. But it matters a lot for the payer. If he has to give net of TDS, his work will increase. Work will increase means depositing the TDS on time and blah blah blah. So many activities are to be done. So that's why, keeping the fact in mind that in banks and post office there are so many customers, bank will go mad deducting TDS on every transaction. That's why bigger threshold. Okay. Or I can say like this, banks are exempted up to 50,000. This is also a proper tone. Banks are, why exempted means they are freed from the tension of TDS. They are exempted up to 50,000. Means they have to cut the TDS only if above 50,000. So there will be less customers of that kind. And here why 10,000? Because this is not bank, na? This is, here it can be Reliance, L&T, Infosys. Tell me, in Reliance, L&T, Infosys, there will be not so many customers as they are in bank. They will also have compliance burden, but not as much as for bank. That's why for bank a special limit of 50,000. See, this logic people don't know. People mug up 50,000 for bank, 50,000. But what is the understanding behind that? That also you should know, na? This chapter, you know, government has simplified of late. Earlier, you know, these amounts were different. At least now be happy. 10, 10, 10, uniformly 10,000. Percentage also 10%, 10%, 10%. Up till now only in banks and post office a different amount has come, 50,000. Just register in your mind. Okay. Then what is the keyword? CD Vakraf CP. CD Vakraf CP. CD Vakraf CP. CD Vakraf CP. So now comes Vakraf. In Vakraf, W stands for winnings. In winnings also threshold is 10,000. As usual, everywhere the threshold is 10,000. So even in winnings, because see, up to 10,000 government thinks the income is nominal. And in nominal income, the person who is earning is hardly getting something. Why to put TDS in that? Okay. See, actually, many students, you know, think what? The dividend TDS comes only about 10,000. That means up to 10,000, we don't have to pay tax. This misunderstanding also I have seen in final CA students. You know what misunderstanding? Dividend, TDS comes up to 10,000, about 10,000, means up to 10,000 it is tax free. Wrong. For a shareholder, dividend income is always taxable whether he gets 500 dividend or 5 crores. But up to 10,000 he will get full amount. If it is about 10,000, he will get net of TDS. Nowhere in my communication you conclude that your income is exempt up to that much. In this chapter, we never talk about exempt income. TDS is meant for taxable income. So all the incomes are taxable. But in the threshold, we are trying to say up to that amount, TDS will not be deducted. But the person who is earning, he has to pay the tax on his own. But if the limit crosses, TDS will be deducted and you will get net of TDS. Similarly, for winnings also, the threshold is 10. But that doesn't mean up to 10,000, no tax on winnings. Up to 10,000, TDS will not be applicable. You pay the tax on your own. But if your winnings is above 10,000, TDS of 30% will be deducted. Here what is the rate of TDS? 30%. And what is the threshold limit? 10,000. But see, here there are 3 winnings. What are the 3 winnings? Horse race, other than horse race, online games. 3 types of winnings you can expect. See, some people bet in horse races. Have you seen horse races? Means there are horse racing in a race and you have to bet on horse 1, horse 2, horse 3. And if your horse wins, you get double table of the amount which you put on stake. Okay. So that is one winning. Winnings from horse race. Second is anything other than horse race. It can be lottery winning. It can be newspaper crossword, newspaper puzzle. It can be game shows, anything. Third winning is online. See, nowadays online gaming is prohibited by Indian government. But in the law, section for TDS is still existing. I will be talking about online gaming, and when I am talking about online gaming, what will you feel? Sir, why are you talking about online gaming? We have heard that recently online games are banned. That Dream 11, that app for cricket. So there are many poker, there are many online games which were running successfully for few years in past. But recently in the year 2025 only, they have banned all online gamings. Means now you can play online games but not for money. And here winnings means there should be some money coming as winning. No? So anyways, forget the real life. In law they have written that if there is online game winning also, TDS will come. But there is no threshold of 10,000 in online games. See here, for online games, any amount you win, TDS is applicable. Because in online, what happens, see, like in a mobile, I will have to download an app for online game and I have to open an account. And that is a running account. Every time I play game, I win, I lose, I win, I lose, I win, I lose, I win, I lose. So TDS comes, but on every winning. Here they don't keep a track on 10,000. Because in a day, a person might be playing 100 times. Those who are addicted, okay. And in online games, since everything works online, TDS also goes in a simplified manner. See, if the winnings are physically I have to distribute the winnings, then TDS also becomes little complicated. That's why there is a freedom up to 10,000, no TDS. But in online, everything is automated. So government says in online game, the winnings are also distributed in an automated manner. So there is no headache. So deduct TDS even if the winning is of 500 rupees. Instead, I am trying to justify that deducting TDS in online game is not so difficult thing because you don't have to physically distribute the winnings. It is automated through online software. So every amount is subject to TDS. You know why there are 3 sections here? 194 double B is for horse race winnings. 194 single B is other than horse race. It can be game shows, etc. And 194 BA is for online games. The 3 sections you will have to remember. And you know how to remember? Double B in my Hindi batch I say Bhagam Bhag. In horse race, the horses are running in a race, and when horses are running, in Hindi we say Bhagam Bhag, Bhagam Bhag. BB means Bhagam Bhag. Okay. So 194 double B is horse race. Single B, other than horse race, it can be lottery, anything, but physical winnings are physical. If it is online, through online games which you play on mobile or laptop, then 194 BA. And rule is same, but for online game, there is no threshold limit. Means even if the winnings are below 10,000, TDS will be applicable. And what is the percentage? 30%. Okay. So this was W. 194C is payment to contractor. It is payment for works contract. You know what is the title of section 194C? Payment for works contract. You know what do you mean by works contract? Works contract means someone is doing the work as per my requirement and specification. This is the best definition I have given. You know why I am calling this as best on my own only? Because I have seen so many case laws and controversy related to 194C. Many times High Court, Supreme Court, they speak at length to prove that it is a works contract. Why they have to prove? Because if it is proved it's a works contract, 194C TDS will apply. And what is the test to prove something is works contract or not? I told you that if someone does the work as per my requirement and specification, if this is proved, it's a works contract. You know, there can be 1,000 examples in works contract. Like for example, I hire one electrician. So tell me, when electrician comes, he will do anything what he wants? Or he will do the work as per my requirement? Obviously, he will work as per my requirement. I might have appointed one electrician. But once he comes, he will tell me, na, sir, what you have to do. So I will tell, I want that you fit 5 tube lights over here, 1 LED light here, and 3 points I want, 1 fan I want, 1 point for AC. So he will start working, but as per my requirement and specification. Similarly, if I construct one classroom, so I will call a contractor and he will do the work as per my requirement. If I tell him I want 100 benches, he will make 100 benches. If I want that there should be camera in front of me, he will install that way. If I want this paint, that paint, he will be doing the paint accordingly. So whenever someone does the work as per my requirement specification, it's a works contract. And trust me, you will find 1,000 examples. I will give many more, but later on. Right now, let me come to the main point. What is the main point right now? Threshold and the percentage. So see here, the threshold is what you know. Either the single payment to the contractor exceeds 30,000 or aggregate of the financial year exceeds 1 lakh. Any of the two criteria matches, TDS will be applicable. Percentage, either 1 or 2. 1% if the other party is individual HUF. See, I am making the payment, but if the other party is individual HUF, then 1%, otherwise 2%. Why such a small percentage? I will explain. First, let me take one example to explain how this actually operates. See, what was the threshold? Either single payment more than 30,000 or aggregate of the financial year more than 1 lakh. Any of the condition matches, we have to deduct TDS. So try. You know, here why the rule is like this, single and aggregate, because generally, you know, when you deal with a contractor, you don't make full payment together. Like for example, I hire a contractor to construct a classroom. So he might have quoted me 10 lakhs. But what do you think? I will make full 10 lakhs payment together? I will make the payment as the work progresses. See, classroom construction will take 2-3 months time. It might take 1 year time also. If I want to construct a big coaching class. So as the work progresses, I will make the payment slowly. Okay. So that's why, you know, what law says, as you release the payment, every time you pay, check. If it is above 30,000, deduct TDS. But if it is not above 30, just aggregate all your payments. If it is above 1 lakh, deduct TDS. Like see, for example, I gave a contract of constructing a coaching class for me to a contractor. Initially, I gave him 21,000. Don't see these amounts. This is future. Right now, I made a payment of only 21,000. So tell me, 21,000, does it exceed 30,000? No. It's not more than 30. Now, check aggregate. Aggregate means total of all full year. This is the first payment. So total is the same 21. So neither the total is more than 1 lakh, nor the single is more than 30. So TDS will not apply. See, I put a cross mark here. Then see the next payment now. What is the next payment? 20,000. Again check, is it more than 30? 20,000 is not more. Single payment means single. So singly it's not more than 30, na? Then check aggregate. For aggregate I have to add previous amount also. What was the first amount? 21. What is the second amount? 20. 21 plus 20, 41. Oh, 41. It's not more than 1 lakh. So again TDS will not apply. See, why I am hiding these other amounts? Because these other amounts will come in future, na? When I am deducting TDS on 20,000, I don't know the future. See, I have written in advance all the future payments. But in real life, when you are in the month of June, do you know what will happen in July, August? You don't know. So as on June, what is my aggregate payment from April to June? I will total up that. Okay. Then, next payment is 28. Let me hide the future payments. Because future we don't know in advance. Na? Now tell me, is 28,000 greater than 30,000? No. So single payment not crossing 30. Check aggregate also. Aggregate means start from the beginning till 28,000. So from the beginning 21 plus 20 plus 28 total comes to how much? 60, 69,000. It is not crossing 1 lakh. So it has not crossed this. So again TDS will not apply. Then next payment. Singly it's not more than 30. Aggregate, add all amounts together. Add how much it comes to. Total comes to 95,000, which is still not more than 1 lakh. So again TDS will not apply. Now see the next amount. Next amount is 10,000. 10,000 is not exceeding 30,000. But now check the aggregate. Add 21 plus 20 plus 28 plus 26 plus 10. Total comes to how much? 1,05,000, which has crossed 1 lakh. Now TDS will apply. Now it will apply on full 1,05,000. Full. Because up till now it was free from TDS. As I didn't cross the threshold. But once I cross the threshold, I will deduct TDS on the full amount, even the previous payments. So tell me, what is the total amount up till now? 1,05,000. So on 1,05,000, I will calculate 1% or 2%. 1% if my contractor is individual HUF, otherwise 2%. But that amount will be subtracted from 10,000. Because currently I am making payment of 10,000. But from 10,000 I will minus 1% of 1,05,000. 1 or 2% of 1,05,000. Okay. But TDS will apply now. Then after this 10,000 I made one more payment of 1,000. See, the last payment is only 1,000. So 1,000 is not more than 30. But if you see the aggregate, I am already above 1 lakh. I was already 1,05,000. This will make 1,06,000. So TDS will come. But now it will come only on 1,000. Because all the previous payments TDS has been deducted. So now only on 1,000 TDS will come. It will come but only on 1,000. And what is the percentage? Either 1 or 2%. Depending upon the receiver. See, I am the payer. If the receiver individual HF, then 1%, otherwise 2%. Tell me now next year what will happen? You have to press reset button, reset. All the limits will refresh. See, otherwise see, till the time the year was going on, I was aggregating the previous payments. Because it was of the same year. But now once March is over, next year when April comes, you have to restart totaling. So tell me, next year in the month of April I made payment of 12,000. No TDS. 12,000 is a fresh 12,000. Neither it crosses 30 nor the total is 1 lakh crossing 1 lakh. So TDS will not apply. This year's total I will not club in next year. Next year the totaling will be refreshed. Okay. Tell me here why the percentage is so small, 1%, 2%. Because see, here I am making payment to the contractor. Whatever amount I am paying to him, it's not fully his profit. He has to incur the cost of material labor also. Like for example, I appoint a contractor for making a classroom. So tell me that contractor, when he makes the classroom, he will have to purchase material like paint boxes, cement, sand, etc. For making the benches, he will purchase wood. He will hire labor. So see, although I might be making payment of 5 lakhs to him, or I might be making payment of 5 lakhs, but that full 5 lakhs is not his profit, na? In that he has got lot of cost like material, labor. His margin is hardly something. But do I know the margin? My contractor's profit margin, I don't know. I just know I'm making payment of 5 lakhs and I'm deducting TDS on full 5 lakhs. Such a big amount, whereas tax comes on the profit. But I don't know his profit. So that's why I'm deducting a small percentage of a big amount. See, what I pay to the contractor is a big amount and his actual income element will be little bit less in that. Many times it happens that I might have paid him 5 lakhs, but he made profit of only 10-12,000 in the transaction. Because out of 5 lakhs, most of the amount he had to spend on material and labor. In short, keeping this fact in mind, law says, okay, so TDS percentage should be little humble. It should not be 10 and 20% so aggressive. It should be 1 or 2% only. See, in all other incomes, what like dividend, whatever I give to the shareholder, it's fully his income, na? Interest, salary. Here, whatever I give to the other party, it fully goes to his pocket. But in contractor, what I give him doesn't go fully in his pocket. He has got cost to be incurred. So this is 194C. Again, I am repeating, don't think 194C is completely done. I have just explained what? Threshold and the percentage. Extra points I will explain in section wise notes. Okay. Then see 194DGH. All are commission. But you know why different section? Because there are 3 types of commission. Insurance commission, lottery commission, other commission. Repeat. Insurance commission, lottery commission, other commission. One by one. Insurance commission means, imagine I am LIC or ICICI Prudential, Tata AIG, MetLife Insurance. So I get my business through my agents. So when agents get me business, I pay them commission. So that is insurance commission. Then what was the other one? Lottery commission. You know who runs lottery business? State government. State government is the owner of lottery business. And the person who sits on the lottery stall, is the agent. Who is the principal? Who is the owner? State government. I don't know whether you have seen lotteries in real life. When you see lottery tickets, it's written there. Maharashtra State Lotteries, Karnataka State Lotteries, Andhra Pradesh State Lotteries. Because all lottery business across India is done by state government. And who sits on the lottery stall? Agent. So tell me, who might be paying commission to whom? State government pays commission to the lottery stall. The one who runs the lottery stall, he has to sell the lottery tickets. For that he gets commission from state government. So that is covered under section 194G. See, 194D is insurance commission. 194G is lottery commission. All other commission 194H. All other means like sometimes you pay brokerage to the estate agent. Sometimes company has to pay commission to the sole selling agents. All other commissions are 194H. And you know, for every commission the threshold is same. If commission exceeds 20,000, TDS will apply. Otherwise it will not apply. And here you will notice the limit is little extended. See, otherwise mainly it was 10,000, 10,000, 10,000. But here it is 20,000 because mainly government thought about insurance commission. You know, there are insurance business works at a large scale in India. And you know, all the insurance company, they hardly get the business directly. They get the business 90% through agents. So imagine if I'm LIC, don't you think I might be having lakhs of agents? So imagine every agent, if I have to give commission, if I have to cut TDS, my compliance burden will increase. That's why government has kept a bigger threshold, 20,000. Because up to 20,000, if I don't have to take the tension of TDS, it will give me relief. Who am I? I am insurance company. So I have to focus only on more than 20,000. And my agents who earn more than 20,000 will not be more in number. They will be comparatively less. My burden will be reduced. See, this threshold limit is connected with the burden. Whenever law feels that it will increase the compliance burden of the payer. They give a higher threshold. Okay. Actually speaking, here you will have a doubt, huh? Sir, why 3 different sections are there? After all, for every type of commission, the threshold limit is 20,000. Whether it is insurance commission, then lottery commission, other commission, the threshold is same. Then why the hell 3 different sections? So today you are finding keeping the section different is funny. In fact, the percentage is also same, 2%. For all commission, TDS is 2%. Threshold is also 20,000. So you'll wonder, sir, why different sections? Today, the thresholds are same. Today, when I'm teaching my current batch students, in past when section 194D, G, H were actually created, different threshold was there for different types of commission. That's why different sections were made. But of late, what government of India is realizing, that we don't want to complicate the law. After all, whether insurance commission, lottery commission, other commission, all are commission only. Let's keep the threshold same so that our law becomes simple. This is late realization by government of India. Earlier they were crack. For insurance commission, just for knowledge I'm telling, insurance commission it was 20,000, lottery commission 1,000, other commission 5,000. You don't have to remember, just for knowledge. Basically I'm trying to say, there were different sections and it made sense in past. But now, since the threshold is same, it doesn't make sense. But then what to do? Sections are already made in the law, na? Sections, once it comes in the law, it will remain as it is. So today it sounds that why 3 different sections? There was no need. I understand, no need. But these sections are made from so many years, where in past the threshold was different for different types of commission. Anyways, for students of current batch, the law is so simple. Any commission, just by heart 20,000. Okay. Percentage 2%. But here there is one twist. Sometimes it will be 10%. See, here generally 2% is kept less. You know why? Because generally these insurance agents and lottery agents, they struggle a lot and then they are able to earn commission. Means they have to incur expense. Like see, for example, you are LIC agent. So LIC agent doesn't get the business. He has to travel here and there to convince different clients so that he can get the policy. So he has to incur some expense also. So keeping in mind, government has kept the percentage little humble. Not 10, it is 2%. But it will be 10 when if the insurance agent is a company. Non-company is 2%. Company 10%. Please imagine I am LIC and you are a company. And LIC pays commission to some company. Then 10%. Tell me, how come LIC will pay insurance commission to a company? Generally what we have heard, agents are people like us. LIC agents are people like us. So here you should wonder, how come LIC has paid commission to some company? Between insurance companies, there is passing of business. Like for example, imagine Tata AIG or Birla Sun Life Insurance. Let's take an example, Birla Sun Life. Birla Sun Life has got so much business. LIC is having no business. So sometimes Birla Sun Life will pass on some business to LIC and LIC will give commission. This is called reinsurance. Means policyholder will take policy from Birla Sun Life. But Birla Sun Life is feeling that we have taken so much of insurance. Means imagine in my example, Birla Sun Life is getting huge volume of business. But so much risk they cannot take now, because the insurance company, they have to take a risk. That suddenly if someone dies, we have to pay on death. So Birla Sun Life felt that we have taken too much of insurance, so they will pass on some business to LIC. So who will give commission now? LIC will give commission to Birla Sun Life. So this is a transaction between corporates. So your TDS will be 10%. Because here LIC is giving commission to Birla Sun Life. And Birla Sun Life is a big entity. That's why 10%. By the way, this is latest amendment. Huh? Earlier it was 2 only. But now what law says? If one insurance company pays commission to another insurance company, maybe because that other insurance company has passed on some business to the first insurance company, then it becomes an intercorporate. And in intercorporate, the person getting the commission is a big corporate. So TDS will be 10%, big percentage. Okay. But in general, it will be 2%. Okay. See, just like here also, what was the rule? Look. Tell me in contractor, what did I say? If the receiver is individual, it should have 1%, otherwise 2%. Here you should remember, if the receiver of insurance commission is company, 10%, otherwise 2%. But that 10% is typically only in insurance. Huh? What was the other commission? Lottery commission, other commission. There it is always 2%. Then 194I rent. See, I pay rent of these classes, you know. See, if I pay rent above 50,000, 10% TDS. Above 50,000 per month, TDS will be 10%. Okay. But see, 10% TDS if the rent is of land, building, furniture. Plant, machinery, equipment are cheaper. So if you are paying rent of plant, machinery, equipment, TDS will be 2%. See, here also there are two dual percentages. Land, building, furniture, rent, 10%. Because see, if you go to hire land, building, furniture, they are costly. Even furniture renters are costly. Huh? You go to some furniture renters, you ask them to give tables and chairs on rent. They charge huge amount. Many times you will feel I can buy outright chairs and table, but you feel no need of that, so sometimes you rent it. So renting of furniture is also, they have got huge margin. So tell me, in which rents the margins are huge? Land, building, furniture. People who get the rent, they have got huge margin. That's why the TDS is 10%. But people who rent plant, machinery, equipment, there the rentals are very less. So the people who are earning the rent, their margin is also less. That's why the percentage is less. In short, what you would remember? Land, building, furniture 10%. Plant, machinery, equipment 2%. And what is the threshold limit? Per month rent, it should be more than 50,000. See, by the way, in this TDS, many points which I am teaching, they are latest amendment. Like this is a latest amendment. But every time I am not notifying. But if you see my book, all the amendments are highlighted with green color. You will see green font there. So you will understand that this is a latest rule. See, every time if I compare earlier, it was like this, now it is like this, it will create a mess. Because already in TDS, remembering the amount is a tension. And if I bring old law also, earlier it was like this, now it is like this, it will unnecessarily create confusion. Just remember in general that many points amendments have come. Okay. Even this 10,000 is an amendment. Even this 50,000 is an amendment. Here also this 10% was an amendment. And this 50,000 is also amendment. What was the rule earlier? Forget it. Nah. Who is bothered to remember the old law? Just remember this topic has got lot of amendments. So exam point of view, it is very likely. So this was 194I. Tell me, here we see the rent per month. Tell me, what about these amounts? These amounts are per transaction or what? See this, 10,000, 10,000, 50,000, 50,000. Are these per transaction or per annum? So let me tell you in general, every threshold which I am explaining, every threshold is per annum. Per annum. Okay. All the thresholds are per annum. So tell me, how will it operate? Like in commission, 20,000 is per annum. It is aggregate of the financial year. So tell me how insurance companies will decide TDS then? Like see, I'll give you one example. At the beginning of the year, in the month of May, insurance company paid you commission of 12,000. I am LIC. I paid commission of 12,000 to the agent. Will I deduct TDS? No, because 12,000 is not crossing 20,000. But keep this 12,000 in your mind, because the year is not over. This is just the month of May. Now, in the month of June, I made further commission payment to the same person of 3,000. So earlier it was 12, now 3, 12 plus 3, 15,000. Still it has not crossed 20. Then still the year is going on. In the month of November of the same year, I made further payment of 8,000. So now check the total. First it was 12, then it was 3, it became 15, now 8, it has become 23,000. Now on whole 23,000 TDS will apply. See the same type of aggregation which I showed in contract where I was aggregating and checking 1 lakh. Same principle you have to follow everywhere. It is just I am not repeating for every section repeatedly. It is in contract, since there were two amounts. One was single, other was aggregate. So we have to understand what is single, what is aggregate. But in rest all section, there is nothing like single. So all the thresholds are to be checked aggregate of the financial year. So tell me, just for my satisfaction, tell me in dividend, how this 10,000 operates. So if Reliance has given you dividend at the beginning of the year, say 6,000. So TDS will not come. Then in the same year, they gave dividend once again 6,000. So now 6 plus 6 has become 12. So on 12,000, TDS will come because now it is above 10,000. Now TDS will come. In short, every amount which I explained, all are aggregate of the financial year. But winnings, compulsory acquisition, purchase of immovable property, they are per transaction. Reason you will understand automatically. Winnings you will understand now only. Tell me, winnings, is it a certain income or a regular kind of income that if you are winning now, you will win next year also, next month also, every day you keep winning? Winning is a windfall gain. Suddenly you win. So if a particular winning has not crossed 10,000, no TDS. Next time by chance you win again, keep it separate. Don't aggregate. So if you understood answer, at the beginning of the year you had winning of 8,000. So 8,000 is not crossing 10, no TDS. Once again you won 8,000. Still no TDS. Every winning should be seen transaction wise. So tell me where you will see transaction wise winnings, compulsory acquisition, purchase of immovable property. These are all transaction wise. Everywhere else, it is aggregate of the financial year. Okay. And here it is obviously per month. So per month means per month only. But places where I have not written per month or something, it is understood they are all aggregate of the financial year. Only 3 exceptions you have to remember is winnings, C and P. Okay. Then see 194J. In 194J, look, section is only 1, but there are 5 items for TDS. Look here. Professional service. Look, count on my finger. Professional service, fees for technical service, non-compete fees, royalty, director's fees and remuneration. Repeat. Professional service, technical service, non-compete fees, royalty, director's fees and remuneration. You know how to remember this? I have made a keyword out of that. See the keyword. Partner, director, partner, director, partner, director. It's easy to memorize. Partner, director. Actually it is partner, director. Partner. What is per? Professional service. What is T? Technical service. What is N? Non-compete. What is R? Royalty. Director's fees and remuneration. All are covered in the same section 194J. Actually these are 5 different transactions. But God knows why government has kept everything in one section. I'll tell you the reason behind that. Earlier, they didn't want to go beyond 194J. Actually, long back 194J was having only professional service. But when they wanted to add more items, they kept adding in J only. Because they didn't want to create further sections. But then one day they realized, no, this way we are planning to bring so many TDSs. Putting everything in J is not fair. Then they expanded the numbers also. After J, K, L, M, N, O, P, Q, R, S, T, till T it has gone. This is the real reason. See, this I am able to say because I am seeing all this since so many 27, 28 years. Everything is happening in front of my eyes. I remember those days when TDS was ending at 194J. Those were the good days. A chapter used to get over so fast. 194J chapter over, that's it. That's why see, you will find all random things together in 194J. Professional, technical, royalty, everything is mixed. Because earlier government felt that beyond 194J we don't want to go. So everything new they used to put in J only. It was dumping ground. But then they realized no, it is becoming a mess. Since we want to create more section, so all other things they kept it separate. Okay. You know here what is the threshold? 50,000 each. See, although government has kept what? All the things together in the same section, but the threshold is separate, separate, separate. Means what you know? For professional service 50,000 should be checked separately. Technical service 50,000 separate. Non-compete 50,000 separate. Royalties 50,000 separate. See here 50,000 is kept, you know why? Because see, here the person whom you are making the payment, he has got expenses also. Like see, if you make some payment to a lawyer, lawyer has an office. If you make payment to a chartered account, he also runs an office. He has got lot of overheads. So if a client gives him 50,000, 60,000, everything doesn't go to his pocket, na? His profit margin is hardly something. Imagine a chartered accountant getting 45,000. Not a big deal. Because client has given 45,000, he has got so many expenses. So that's why government feels that up to 50,000 is nothing. So why to deduct TDS? Because up to 50,000, he is hardly able to recover his cost. Because every chartered lawyer, they have their office overheads, they have to keep article clerk, they have to pay stipend to them. In short, they have got expenses. So that's why up to 50,000 it is negligible. Above 50,000 TDS will come. But you know, what is the meaning of this each? See, for example, he is a chartered accountant. So I paid him 40,000 for filing of return. One more 40,000 I gave for royalty. Why for royalty? Because maybe he has done some innovation. His invention I am using. I am giving 40,000 for royalty. So keep the amount in mind. First 40,000 I gave for filing of return, professional work. Another 40,000 I gave for royalty. Both the 40,000 fall under the same section 194J, but each means each. So the 40,000 paid for filing the return, it is on account of professional service. Keep it separate. And 40,000, another 40,000 for royalty, it is separate. And both are separately 40-40, below 50, no TDS. Now answer, huh? He is a chartered accountant. I paid him 40,000 for filing the return. 40,000 for filing the return. Another 40,000 for auditing. 140,000 for filing my returns. Another 40,000 for doing my auditing work. So filing the return, auditing work falls within the same profile of professional work. Then you will combine. See, separate means don't unnecessarily separate every time. If the nature of the work is same, keep it same, na? Yes, professional, technical, non-compete, royalty, keep them separate. But within professional, filing, return, audit, etc., it's all one and the same. So tell me here what you will do. 40,000 for filing, return, 40,000 for audit, combined. It's 80,000. 80,000 above 50, TDS will be applicable. And see, for director, there is no threshold limit. Because director, any rupee they get, it's full income for them. They get free income. Chartered accountant, lawyer do not get free income. They have to struggle. They have to maintain an office. They have to incur overheads. Then they are able to generate the income. But what a director has to do? You know, directors, what they do? They simply attend board meeting. And for attending one meeting, they get 20,000. I have one friend. He's just a director in a company. He doesn't know what happens in a company. Every time he attends a meeting, he gets 20,000. In a year, he attends 10-15 meetings. Generally, so many meetings are not there, but at least 4 to 5 meetings happen. And just for attending the meeting, you get 20,000. 20,000, don't buy it, just for knowledge. I am just sharing my friend's experience with you. Yesterday, means few days back only, he was saying, I am just an independent director in one company. Every time I attend the meeting, I get 20,000. And in the meeting, they get snacks also. So tell me, it is totally free income. So here, why will government keep a threshold? Even if director gets 1 rupee, TDS will be applicable. Chartered accountant, it's hard earned income. So up to 50,000, no TDS. See, this director's amount means it should not be in the nature of salary. These are like fees for attending board meetings, something like that. Or sometimes director get the fees for managing the company. See, if a director is working like an employee, then it will come in section 192. See, you never know. Sometimes directors are director just by designation. Actually, he is an employee. Like for example, after you become a chartered accountant, you work in some company and you get promoted. One day you get the designation of director. So designation director, but after all, you are an employee in that company, na? As employee, if you get, even though your designation is director, it will come in 192. This 194J comes when it should not be in the nature of salary. Like pure directorship fees you are getting, attending board meeting, taking decisions, etc. Not in the nature of salary. This law has clarified. In 194J, if you see the Bare Act, they have written directors' fees and remuneration not in the nature of salary, because if it is in the nature of salary, 192 will be attracted. You know here percentage is what? Again dual percentage. Generally 10. You know when 2%? Look, if it is technical service and royalty for films. Royalty for films. Not every royalty, royalty for films. And technical service, it will be 2%. You know why the percentage is so humble here? Because in technical services, your margins are less. See, compare a professional and a technical service provider. See, professional has to just use the brain and speak and earn. But technical, he has to give his service with the help of technology. And technology has some cost. Generally, you know what comes in technical service? Like some hardware consultant, software consultant. He has made an app for me, a mobile app through which I can track my students whether they are studying or not. Some technical kind of work I have got it done. But see, in technical service, it is not just use of brains only. Along with brains, you have to incur some cost also. So, but professionals, chartered accountant, lawyer, they have to just give bookish knowledge and they get the income. See, basically what I am trying to show, professionals have got good margin compared to technical people, because technical people also, they show their brain, but with the brain they have to use some technology which involves some cost. That's why their margin is little less. That's why the percentage is little less, 2%. What about non-compete fees, royalty? Everywhere 10%. But in film royalty, 2%. Why? Because film royalties have nowadays become cheaper. See, for example, if I produce a film and if I give that film to some multiplex theater, I don't get much royalty, because creating a film is not a great innovation. But compare it to this. Imagine I have created a new product, totally different product which no one has seen in the world till now. It has more value. On such products invention, I will get good amount of royalty. Creating the films, filmmakers do get royalty. But is it a great innovation? Nowadays every person makes film. Not every person, but then making the film is not so innovative work. So that's why filmmakers hardly get they get good royalty, but not that much as a true inventor gets. So that's why in general, if you make invention, the royalty income will be subject to 10% TDS. But if you made a film and you have given the distribution rights to the theater, then only 2% TDS, because the margins are less in film royalties. In short, 2% is in two places, technical service and film royalty. Rest all places it is 10%. You know one good thing to remember? See here, 1/2. After that it is like 1/2 only, but 10 to 10 to 10 to 10 to. This has repeatedly come, 10/2, 10/2, 10/2. And this was also somewhat similar, but not 10/2, 1/2. And 1 plus 2 is 3. Just make a connection so that you can remember, na? And in the previous page it was all 10% only. See, this way also you can remember 10, 10, 10, 10 plus 10 plus 10, 30. Then if you split 30 into 1 and 3, then 10, 2, 10, 2, 10, 2. Tell me, here what was 10, 2, here what was 10, 2, here what was 10, 2. In commission, 10 is for one insurance company giving commission to another company. Company receiving insurance commission. Company. Remember that example of Birla Sun Life passed on the business to LIC? So they are passing of commission from LIC to Birla Sun Life subject to 10%. Rest all 2%. Then in rent, land, building, furniture you rented, 10% TDS. Plant, machinery, equipment, 2%. And in 194J, technical service and film royalties, 2%. Otherwise, 10%. Okay. Then see, next alphabet in the keyword, CP, compulsory acquisition and purchase of immovable property. See, what is this IMM, you know? Both are for immovable property. By the way, see, compulsory acquisition always happens with immovable property. Because see, if a movable property is acting as an obstacle in construction of road, flyover or railway station, I will move it away, na? Problem arises when my property cannot move and government wants to construct there a flyover there only. So government takes away my property. In short, I just want you to notice that it is always immovable property who become the target of compulsory acquisition. And you know, in compulsory acquisition, generally, the person whose property is taken away, he is in anger. He is in angry mode. Why? Why is he angry? Because his property government has forcefully taken away. Obviously, he will not like it. So, what the compensation which he gets, sometimes he might not pay tax on that. Otherwise, you know, under capital gain, we have studied in compulsory acquisition also, compensation is subject to capital gain tax. But people who are angry, they might avoid the tax, thinking what? First government takes away property forcefully and now they want me to pay the tax. I will not pay the tax. So there are high risk factor of tax. That's why TDS. That's why you know what government does? Whenever they give you compensation, they will cut the TDS first only. In case if the person whose property is taken away out of his anger, what if he doesn't pay the tax? So to meet the risk of he not paying the tax, government will cut the TDS first only at source. Okay. But you know here, if the compensation is above 5 lakhs, this amount has also changed recently. No need to remember old amounts. You just remember 5 lakhs is the latest law. If compensation exceeds 5 lakhs, TDS will be applicable. And generally it will exceed 5 lakhs. Because compulsory acquisition of immovable property. Just imagine your immovable property, if it is taken away, your compensation will be definitely more than 5 lakhs. Yes, we never know. By chance, if your property is in some village area, in a small village, you had a land which government took away, then compensation may be less than 5 lakhs also. Then no TDS. Because if it is less than 5 lakhs, hardly you will make capital gain. Because see, this compensation will become your FEOC. If you deduct from that the cost of acquisition, it will further become a small amount. So that's why if the compensation is not even crossing 5 lakhs, so what the capital gain will be? So that's why government said no need to bother with TDS if it is up to 5 lakhs. Above 5 lakhs TDS should come. And logic is because the person is angry, he might not pay the tax. That's why deduct the TDS. Section is 194 LA. Now, next section is what you know. Here I have voluntarily acquired some property. Please imagine I purchase a house property. I purchase a bungalow. I purchase some immovable property, maybe a land or house. If the transaction value is greater than equal to 50 lakhs, 1% TDS will be deducted by the buyer of the property. Who deducts TDS? Payer. This chapter is for payer. So tell me, in a house property transaction, who has to make the payment? Seller or buyer? Buyer will make the payment. So when buyer, imagine the buyer is buying the house. So while making the payment, he will cut TDS of 1%. If the consideration is greater than equal to 50 lakhs. Here what you have to remember? 50 lakhs. And percentage is 1. Here it was 10%. Can you tell me the logic behind? Here the threshold is small. Here it is so big. 5 lakhs and straight 50 lakhs. Here the percentage is 10. Here it is only 1%. So I have given the hint. This is a risky transaction. This is a safe transaction. Risky and safe from what point of view? Whether the person earning the income will pay the tax or not. Like see, generally when government takes away a property forcefully, you are the one who will make capital gain. And you might not pay the tax. There are high chances you will not pay. Why? Because you are angry. That's why law says even if it crosses 5 lakhs, deduct 10%, not just 10%. Because there are high chances that the person whose property is snatched away, he will not pay the tax. Because here forceful action is taken. But in the next section, is there any force or free will? Free will. Like see, if I buy property from you and you are also happily selling. If you are happily selling, you will be willing to pay the tax, na? You will pay tax. But who knows? By chance if you don't pay. So that's why for safety, we cut 1%. Only 1% as a safety margin. See here, I want you to feel the transaction is free will. No force, no compulsion. I have happily acquired a property. You also happily sold. And see why I'm talking about seller. Seller makes capital gain. Huh? So the seller who has happily sold his house, he will happily pay the tax. So there is no risk. But by chance if he doesn't pay then, that's why as a safety margin 1%, that also more than equal to 50 lakhs. Means for small transaction, government doesn't want to bother because government believes people will pay tax. Because here there is no force. Here it's a transaction at free will. See, with logic, if you understand, it becomes simple. See, it would have taken just half of the time which I took to explain if I wanted to explain mechanically. Just buy it, this, move on. But this way, see, right now you will buy it, after some time you will forget everything. But with logic, if you remember, you will never forget it. See, in my Hindi batch, there is one trick to remember. Something I will speak in Hindi now, see. लूट के acquire किया, इज्जत से acquire किया. You didn't understand, see. LA 194, LA means लूट के acquire किया. In Hindi, when we say loot liya means forcefully snatched from you. So loot kiya, acquire kiya. And in compulsory, that's what is happening. Government is not giving you choice. They are forcefully snatching. In Hindi, we say loot ke, acquire kiya. But tell me in 194 IA, was it forceful or at free will? Free will. So we say izzat se acquire kiya. Izzat. Izzat means respectfully. No insult and no forceful action, no hurting someone. Izzat se. Respectfully I have acquired the property. Izzat se acquire kiya. See, this will help you in remembering the section number. IA, izzat se acquire kiya. LA, loot ke acquire kiya. Now see, if you purchase immovable property, if that immovable property is agricultural land, rural, and you know, in rural agriculture land, transaction, capital gain does not arise. Recently, we studied capital gain. If you have forgotten, I will remind you. In capital gain topic, didn't I say rural agriculture land is exempt from capital gain? Rural agriculture land in India. So tell me, if the immovable property which you purchase, if it is a rural agriculture land, seller will not have capital gain tax. So why the hell I should deduct TDS? TDS comes on taxable transaction. But this is tax free. So that's why see what I have written. Rural agriculture land, capital gains does not come. So TDS is not applicable. And you know, in compulsory acquisition, urban, rural, both are tax free in capital gains. You forgot now? In compulsory acquisition, see, if you remember, I'll tell you. Compulsory acquisition, wait, it's here. See this. Agriculture land, rural area, capital gain doesn't come. Even in urban area, Compulsory acquisition is exempt under section 1037. So that means, see, if compulsory acquisition is there of an urban agriculture land, will TDS apply? See, TDS applies only when the income is taxable. And imagine urban agriculture land is forcefully taken away. So it is exempt under 1037. So TDS will not come. And if rural agriculture land is also taken away, again TDS will not come. In short, what I want to say, in case of compulsory acquisition, read whether rural or urban, both are exempt from TDS. See, what is the way of thinking? If something is not taxed in capital gain, see, first, do you agree this comes in capital gains for the seller? TDS will be cut by the buyer. TDS is always cut by the payer. But the income is of the seller, na? So, do you agree? If it is a normal sale, only rural agriculture land is exempt. Think from seller. And if it is a compulsory acquisition, rural anyways it is exempt. Even urban is exempt under section 1037. And if something becomes exempt, there is no need of deducting TDS. So see, I have put a cross mark here, means TDS will not apply. Okay. So this was C and P. So finally, see what we did. CD, Vakrab, CP. Through this keyword, I explained various threshold limits and the TDS percentage. Okay. And apart from this, there are many more sections. We ended the section last at somewhere 194 LA. Okay. But after that, there are other sections like M, N, O, P, Q, R, S. All those sections will be done in section wise. Okay. But the basic TDS sections and thresholds and percentages are done. So this is done. This I will continue next lecture. This I will continue next lecture. And this and so on.